So we're at an Earthquaker party, which is basically a party here in LA at NAMM for a bunch of pedal builders. And and people that like pedals. So I found Andy though. Andy is here. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to ask him a few questions, and kind of interview him for once. We don't do that very often. Also, the 60 Cycle Hum guys are here as well. And my buddy Jason Wilder.
Yeah.
60 Cycle Hum. And
for some reason. And I think they got in trouble. Hey. Hey, Brian.
So obviously people have noticed that you were at NAMM and you've never been at NAMM before.
Yeah, I got my first taste of NAMM representing this company. Shameless plug.
Right.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I got to see, I got to see those comments on YouTube come to life in the form of a handshake and a really cool story about how they bought, it's usually this one, it's like, oh, I've spent so much money because of you. They never said wasted. They said they spent so much money and they owe it all to me. And it was just really awesome to finally meet those people in person.
You broke my marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm now divorced because of you.
My wife hates you. That's definitely, that's...
But did you expect that so many people would recognize you?
I didn't, no. I mean, it was... I guess I should have expected it. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I guess I've been part of people's lives for, almost daily. So I guess I should have expected that. But just the people were so awesome, so warm, friendly, and just really we're excited that I'm continuing to do it, through Reverb now. So and I still have freedom to edit how I want and keep the sound consistent, and that was a big concern. And I think that everything's staying the same. I'm still the sound man, So.
What was it like to find out that because obviously you see so many comments on on YouTube and everything, and Facebook or wherever else. But what was it like to actually start meeting the people? Because it seems more real. When you see the comments, it's like, maybe a few people, but now you actually have people that are seeing you in line, when you're getting ready to use the restroom.
Yeah.
And someone pokes, you're sitting at the urinal and someone taps you on the back, like, are you Andy?
Yeah, that must have happened to you, because that happened to me exactly. I was waiting in line at the restroom, and I had to step aside and let people go ahead. But it was so great. I mean, it's like I love it. And I'm very very grateful that I can continue to do this, and it just makes it more real, and it makes it more, I guess, my job more important, because I know that people are really relying on the things they're saying is like, I don't really go to anyone else besides you, or if I really want to know how it sounds, I go to you, and that's just awesome. And it really shows the importance of what I do, and so I gotta keep that level up, so it keeps me on my toes, and lets people know that that there's a certain level of professionalism, which is awesome. I mean, I've just been doing it just how I thought I should do it. I didn't realize it was going to help so many people.
So whenever you were younger, obviously, like we talked earlier, you started out working kind of in the shipping department of ProGuitarShop.
Yeah.
Prior to that, did you ever think that you would be in the guitar industry in the aspect that you are? Like, was that any aspiration at all? Or did you think you'd just be kind of doing film stuff somewhere?
Yeah, well, like you said, the film thing, because that's kind of where I went to school for. I went to film school, and I tried to make my profession. I was always a guitar player since I was 11, 12. And I thought, well, that's always going to be a part of me, but I thought if I could just do something in that area, sure, I can't be a rock star, so what else can I do? I'll be a sound editor, I'll be a boom op, So yeah, no, I didn't think that was actually going to be part of my job, and then, so yeah, I moved up to Portland after working in LA for a few years, trying to do that film thing, and just got a job in shipping, and I realized that or Aaron realized that ProGuitarShop realized that there was this new format coming out, and There's people like Gearman Dude and Z-Vex. Really, that was it. I mean, really, the only professional ones.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he thought, he knew that I had a film background, and so he was like, you know, let's just give this a shot. And that was it. It just took off, and I was obviously out of shipping from that point on.
So I don't have to tape any more boxes?
Yeah, exactly.
I can play guitar all day long.
I can lock myself in a room and point at a pedal. You know, I didn't realize I was actually pointing at a pedal until later. I realized that, you know, since the camera was so tight, that shit became a phase that many fans have told me since, that, you know, it's the Andy pointing phase. You know, because, you know, when you talk with your hands, it's like that, but when you get a camera zoomed in, all of a sudden your hand is becoming the character, you know. But that's just kind of a funny side effect, and, you know, and things that, you know, you realize, things about yourself that you do, you know. So that was another thing. I never really wanted to be in front of the camera.
Really?
I mean, of course. I mean, I was always the editor, the tech guy. So I was happy just being the hand coming in and turning the dial, and just being very clinical about it, being a resource. So yeah, it was a whole new experience for me.
So did you and do you look back at the videos that you've done and kind of study yourself and say, oh, I should have said that, or I should have done that different, or I wish I would have played this other song? Like anything like, do you study yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good lesson to kind of go back and revisit, you know, how I did things, and I wonder how was the sound back then, you know, just to kind of study up. And there's also times where I've gone back and go, oh man, I forgot that I played that riff, you know, I should use that in this newer demo, because I wasn't in that one, it was just the pedal, so I could reuse it again and now put a backing track, and it saves me, so I go back to past Andy and he helps me out, you know.
Oh, you look back, how did I play that?
Oh, and that's another thing, it's like, why did I decide to play the solo for, you know, this Pantera song? What made me think I could do that, you know? I think it was the Empress Heavy, I played Walk. I was like, why did I think I could pull that off, you know?
Oh, that's fantastic.
So yeah, I try to learn a lot from and just also just to kind of remind myself of, you know, I've come a long way with the technique, and, you know, trying to just play better, you know.
Right. So. Right. What's your recording and video setup right now? For Reverb, because obviously it's changed a little bit over the years.
It's changed a little bit, yeah. I've kind of kept it simple. I was just showing my buddy Roman Schnobel.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stayed pretty consistent. I mean, I was lucky enough to bring on one of those sound booths where I could crank up the amps. That's the important thing, is to get those at, you know, a good level. You know, like 3 or 4 on a deluxe reverb. You know, if you get it too low, it's just high end. It doesn't really show the proper bass response of a lot of pedals.
Right.
And then I got real lucky, and you know, Universal Audio is a fan of reverb, and so I've got one of those Apollo interfaces, ones that you could actually do plugins of like 1176, like in real time, you know. But I try to keep it, you know, I don't go overboard with plugins and stuff. I've always done that, just try to keep it as natural as I can. Just to make it just as real as real as possible. I mean, if I need to put a limiter on it so it won't clip, that's going to happen.
Right, sometimes you got to.
Yeah, but so yeah, it's really, and I've wanted to stick with the deluxe reverb because I think it's just, people are familiar with it. It's a good middle of the road price range, you know, and then a lot of the same guitars came over from ProGuitarShop, the Legacy, the Les Paul, the traditional, and then a lot of my dad's guitars are, you know, red tail guitars. I don't know. So he's been supplying me with guitars over about 20 years, you know, and it really just makes them for me, just because he loves to see me play them, and so yeah, it's been awesome to be able to keep consistent sound, and the Royer mic is a big part of it. Just real natural ribbon mics I mean, you probably know, it's just fantastic, you know. So yeah, it's just been, that's really the basic setup. I mean, it's just maybe 2 mics on an amp, and and you know, I'll have some, you know, voiceover work, and I'll edit those for my editing days, and you know, film. So I kind of get that nice and as short as I can, but get the most amount of information possible. So that's the goal.
Are you editing the video in Final Cut or Adobe?
Yeah, it was. Well, so with ProGuitarShop, I was using Vegas because it was really easy. It was audio and video. But now I've kind of moved over to the Adobe side, so it's a Premiere, you know, and Premiere and Audition.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, and then they're great. I mean, but luckily I get a lot of support from the Reverb guys.
Right.
So they have awesome editors that are way better than, I mean, because I never was considered myself a video editor or audio editor first, you know. So, but I'll get a big chunk of it kind of get the takes that I like, and you know, and that's another thing. I never do anything in the first take. I don't think anyone does, you know. But I get that question a lot, you know.
That's why I mess up all the time.
If I do get in the first take, I just like give myself a high five, you know. It's just like the best feeling, you know.
Right. So what is your process of preparing for demos? You know, you get a company's overdrive pedal.
Yeah.
What's your process once you receive that pedal?
I definitely give it some just one-on-one time, like I'd say a good 45 minutes, just finding the limits, finding the sweet spot. People have said I'm kind of like a pedal whisperer because I listen to what it wants to do, you know, and I love that. It's like I really identify with that because there's always you could tell what it wants to do. You know, you can tell it's not going to be a metal pedal. It's going to do this kind of gain range. Okay, so I'll stick to this genre.
So you kind of figure out some types of songs.
Yeah, kind of getting a good idea. Oh, it sounds like this song, and then if I really want to pursue that, I'll just take the time and I'll just learn the song. You know, I really would like to just do the pedal justice, and then if I think, oh wow, it really sounds the best on that song, then I'll make a backing track and try to get some drums and bass together and make that the intro, and so that's the big one, you know. And then the rest of it is other cool settings that I feel like that should be shown. Oh, it also does this cool, like, you know, clean boost setting, which you know you may have not realized, or it has a really great buffer, you know, things that maybe you don't want to open with, but it should be mentioned, you know, something that you know, someone like you really put some time into it, and you know, what really wants to get that point across.
How long does that process generally take? I know it changes.
Yeah, on average, I mean, it's like a day and a half, really, from start to finish, you know. That's just because a lot of it, especially nowadays with the backing tracks, you know, I mean, it's kind of love-hate relationship, because I know the first, when I was coming in the transitional period going into Reverb, I really didn't have a lot of time to do the backing tracks, and I think a lot of people kind of realized there was some energy missing, and then so they thought, well, what is it? Is it the sound? Is it recording, or those editors really messing with them? And I think a lot of people just didn't realize it wasn't coming out of the gates with those like really hard-hitting backing tracks, and the energy. That's the energy, you know.
Right.
Because the editor and the sound has always kind of started with me, you know. But amps take a little bit longer because again, those have, you know, more components to figure out, more sweet spots, and then now you're dealing with mic placement, and then multi-effects pedals, maybe, you know, a little bit longer than that, you know. So, but yeah, it's not like some people can knock it out in a couple hours, and I really envy them, you know. But I'm a little bit, I try to overplan, I think, you know, just to make sure that everyone's happy, you know.
Right. What is your favorite pedal of all time? And this doesn't necessarily mean everything you've demoed. So this could be something you had as a kid. And you don't have to say Wampler because I'm sitting here.
Wow. Well, I guess I'll say it was maybe pre-Wampler days, you know. I don't know. I think I got this. I mean, really, it was kind of like the first, you know, transparent overdrive, which is that Marshall Bluesbreaker pedal.
Right.
And I didn't really like the drive on it, but I liked a little bit of drive. And so it's kind of like my first dealing with, you know, using the amp, just the amp overdrive, turning it up loud enough to get breakup, and then just using that pedal just to push it over the edge. So that, I think, because before that I had like a DoD grunge pedal and a Rat, which was cool, but it was very it was, you know, it was like this.
Right.
You know, it was very one-dimensional. It didn't, you know, the dynamic range wasn't there. It didn't clean up as well. So once I kind of figured, the amp is really the key. You know, and then the pedal is the kind of thing to push it over the edge and get your tone noticed and to put some flair on it. You know, to give it some space with the delay or reverb. So I think that Blues Breaker, because it was so subtle, it kind of made me go, wow. I mean, it's making my amp work more. So maybe I should pay attention to the amp a little bit. You know, instead of the pedals. You know,
less pedals.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what not a lot of people want to hear. But I mean, you know, it's your engine.
It really is.
You know, it's the thing driving the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, a $200 Wampler pedal is not going to be that fantastic through a Gorilla amp.
Oh yeah,
I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
All right. So do you play in a band right now? I mean, now that you're basically hitting even harder for reverb, right? I mean, I know you worked hard before.
Yeah, not currently. I mean, I've played in bands like growing up in California, and, you know, in high school and college and stuff. And it's really, as soon as I started doing the PGS gig, I kind of that took care of my itch.
Yeah, your music.
You know, and like you really, I mean, I'd come home and not want to look at a guitar, you know, because it's been in my hands almost all day.
Right.
So yeah, not currently, but I mean, I would love to do something with, you know, with a live band again, because that's what it's all about. And I can't lose touch of why people buy pedals and gear, because it's to make music. It's to have that connection with the drummer and a bass player. And, you know.
I've always told people that once your hobby kind of becomes your job, you kind of lose your hobby. I mean, like if you say you love cookie dough and you go to work at a cookie dough factory, eventually there's gonna be a time you're like, I don't really like eating cookie dough tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's where you kind of have to kind of take a step back and remember why you wanted to play guitar in the first place. And so yeah, I like to go and listen to some of those albums that I used to play along to as a kid. Like I locked myself in my room and when I was a kid and play along to like the Who Live at Leeds, and there's a couple other live albums that I always like live albums because, well, for one reason, the Who Live at Leeds, you could turn the balance on your radio and just hear Entwistle, and so then now you're Townsend, you know. Yeah, so I think that just kind of reinvigorates you, and you kind of step back and realize, you know, or just, yeah, like I said, going into the room with the amp instead of having it separate, and just get that connection again with the amp, and sometimes it's a little too distant, you know, especially with like modeling and stuff like that. I mean, the sounds are spot on sometimes, but you don't really get the interaction and the speaker pushing the air. Right. You know, I think that's a good way to kind of remind yourself and not get sick of the cookie dough. You know?
So you've been doing gear demos for what, 11, 12 years maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely over 10 years at this point. So yeah, it's.
How do you think things have changed over those, as far as like, let's say pedals in general? How do you think all the trends have changed since then? Since you know, doing daylight?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think in the kind of the time when I started, like 2007, there was a lot of people that had never seen an oscillating fuzz before, or you know, a shimmer reverb. You know, that was all new. So I think companies are kind of having to kind of reinvent the wheel, or just get a little bit more creative, and or just, you know, step it up. You know, put multiple pedals together. You know, like ethereal. You know, it's just I think it's probably been a challenge for companies. You know, to kind of stay on top. You know, I couldn't do it. Come up with something fresh. You know, so yeah, they've just kind of had to. I think they've just had to give people more, which is a great thing for the player, you know, because now every pedal, there really aren't, you know, have you ever played a bad pedal? You know, I don't think that really is possible anymore.
Not really, you know? Because it all depends on what you're using that pedal for.
Yeah, that's true.
If I want to play metal, I'm not going to get a tube screamer's a bad pedal.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm playing through a twin and I want something that's a little warmer, then a tube screamer's a good pedal. So
yeah, totally. Yeah.
It just really depends what.
But as far as like the bad, I mean, I think that's the thing that's great about about the pedal industries, because everyone's pretty much, I mean, they're all on the pro level these days. So I think that's a cool thing about the pedal industry at this point, is that really, I mean, it's hard to find something that's going to break on you, so that's a plus.
Did you see a lot of that in the earlier days? Because back then there was a lot of more of a rough DIY-ish type of pedal scene.
Yeah, it seemed like people were kind of just ironing out the details, as far as form factor, trying to cram too much into an enclosure, and then maybe not realizing it's not a good position for where a switch should be, and your foot jams down on a mini pot, and then all of a sudden that's bent, and then you got to send 20 of them back. Right. So definitely, I think people have it's put a lot of pressure. You've probably seen it. People get really, really particular, and then it seems like now you can't get away with having a delay with tap tempo. Even though I think the Bell Epoch can get away without tap tempo, I think the buyer is definitely the buyer is smarter. They're a little bit more demanding, and so that's definitely something that's changed.
What do you feel is the hardest aspect of what you do day after day?
I think the hardest thing is coming up with is making new ideas. Creating new songs. Sometimes you as a guitar player, you feel like why am I playing guitar? This isn't anything special. I don't have any more ideas. That's the thing. It's like making sure that I could do the pedal justice, and I don't want to play that same old riff again. I really, when I started playing guitar, I didn't want to play like Angus Young, because everyone plays those licks. I didn't want to play. I totally respect them, and like Stevie Ray, I respect that to the bone. But I don't want to play that, style. I don't want to play those things. So that's a big. That's always been a big hurdle. It's like not playing like everyone else.
Do you really focus from the get-go of forming your own style?
I don't know why. I just never wanted to be like everyone else. I've always been an odd duck, left-handed person, no pick, so I'm already, I'm already starting way on the other side of the fence,
That's great. Okay, so one more question. Who are your guitar heroes growing up?
Growing up, no question, it was Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, Pete Townsend, Alex Lifeson, those guys. I just love, because mainly the connection is a lot of those guys, 100-watt Marshalls, whatever, British amps cranked up. I think that's just, to me, it just doesn't get any better than that, And then I got into like a lot of my dad's music. That's really what it was. He turned me on to Led Zeppelin, and then a lot of those blues guys like Johnny Winter and Buddy Guy, and then I started realizing a lot of those guys don't play with a pick, and so I kind of latched onto that.
Right.
And then I wanted to get a little bit more modern, and so like modern heroes, Josh Homme, Nels Cline, and Graham Coxon is huge respect for Graham, because rhythm guitar, he'll play a solo, but it's not like any solo you've heard. It's just like it's like he kind of tries to defy a solo, or he'll just do it and just play what he feels. He's not thinking about staying in a certain mode or anything. He would laugh at that. What mode are you playing in? Just full attitude. So
I lied. One more question. What would, and maybe this has happened to you, what would you say if you found out that one of your heroes watched your videos and then went on to buy something because of how you played something? Like, have you ever had that happen?
Well, it's funny, because it's just funny talking about, this is like embarrassing, but, for the Chase Bliss pedal I just did, the Warped vinyl, I'm secretly trying to get Graham noticing my stuff, so I'll play like deep cuts, like a Blur tune that...
Things that only a fan
know. And I did see on social media that he noticed what song I was playing. It was a song called Peter Panic. And So yeah, I don't know if he bought it because it was basically, I knew he liked vibrato pedal. He used the Boss vibrato, and so this was a vibrato, and that's kind of how my brain works. I'm like, oh, I know he uses this pedal. Let's try to do this pedal's a vibrato. Let's try to get that sound, So I don't know if he eventually bought it, but I was very, very beside myself that he commented on that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you doing this with me. I don't think, has anyone done an interview with you?
This is this year is a bunch of new things for me, and I think I've only done like maybe a podcast here and there. And,
right. You did Blake's podcast.
Yeah, Blake's Tone Mob, and then AMA, which was really a thrill. I'd love to do another one of those.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I thought.
Yeah, and I was my fingers were so sore by the end of that day because I thought it was just going to be a couple hours, and I ended up doing it for the rest of the day. Yeah, and but it was awesome because I could finally connect. Just like NAMM today, I could finally connect with these people, and so yeah, I'm just really grateful that people are still digging what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, and it was great to meet you today. Believe it or not.